What if you vanished from social media for 30 days and nothing happened? No DMs, no panic, no flood of where are you messages. What if no one even noticed? I'd been posting fairly regularly on Facebook just on my personal profile for about a year. Not anything over the top, just consistent enough to build presence and stay visible. But recently I got wrapped up in some big projects. Time was getting tight and content was the first thing that got squeezed. So I paused just for a little while, and that's when something unexpected happened. People started reaching out. Hey, what's going on? I haven't seen you post in a while. Are you still active on Facebook? Hey, are you okay? Miss seeing your stuff. It hadn't even been that long, but feedback started rolling in fast. And honestly, it really surprised me. The moment I realized I wasn't just posting, I was creating connection. And that's the real goal, isn't it? You don't want content that just gets scrolled past. You want content that's missed when it's gone. So here's the question. What would happen if you stopped posting for 30 days, for a month? And more importantly, what would that silence reveal? Let's dive in. I'll show you how to create content that builds loyalty, earns attention, and gets people to care when you're not there. Most people confuse posting with marketing. You're active, so it feels like progress. You're visible, so it feels like momentum. But pause for a second. What actually moved the needle in your business last month? Was it a trending audio clip? Was it a single real conversation with a high-intent client? You've been trained to chase vanity metrics like impressions, comments, and none of that really pays the bills. Ask yourself, if no one saw your post, would it still matter? Would it still hold value? Or was it just something you threw together to stay consistent? Not all content's created equal, and not all motion equals growth. Here's a hard truth. You don't own your audience. Not on Instagram, not TikTok, not even LinkedIn. You're renting space in someone else's algorithm, and the rent goes up every single month. You've probably felt it. One day your reach starts to tank, your story views crash, and you're scrambling to post more, faster and better. The algorithm's not your business partner. It's a landlord that doesn't care if you burn out. So here's the question. Are you building a brand or are you building dependency? Owned media, your email list, your podcast or website, that's equity. Social platforms, borrowed visibility. And the minute you stop feeding the machine, it forgets you existed, unless you've built something a little bit deeper. Everyone says be consistent, post every day, show up no matter what, but no one asks if the content is actually worth showing up for. So let me say it plainly, consistent noise is still noise. And honestly, you don't need to be everywhere. You need to be valuable wherever you are, because one powerful, thoughtful post can outperform 30 forgettable ones. So here's a test. If you were the one posting it, would you even stop to engage? Would you pause? Would you care? If the answer is no, your audience probably won't either. Good content attracts people, but great content attracts the right people and gets them to lean in. Have you ever come across content so generic, so repetitive that it actually makes you less likely to trust the brand? I knew someone who published a blog article every single day. It was all AI written, auto-posted, dozens upon dozens of them, but they all sounded the same. No originality, no clarity, no depth. They weren't building a brand, they were building a digital clutter mess. Worst of all, it actually was repelling people. It created the exact opposite of trust. That's what happens when you focus on output instead of outcome. If your content feels like a chore, your audience are going to feel that too. So take a moment to ask, is your content building connections or is it contamination? Because if you wouldn't follow you, why would anyone else? Let's talk about scroll behavior. Most people are not consuming your content, they're simply glancing at it, scrolling, skimming, speed running their feed. So the goal isn't necessarily volume, it's resonance. The question becomes, what makes someone pause? What makes you pause? Spoiler, it's not the templates, it's not the trends, it's truth. Clarity cuts through, specificity gets attention. Value creates gravity. If you're adding more noise, you disappear into the background. If you're creating a signal, a strong, bold, relevant signal, you earn attention. Let's clear something up. Content does matter. Great content educates, it builds authority, it nurtures trust. In fact, for many businesses, it's a powerful and necessary part of long-term strategy, especially when it comes to SEO, lead generation, and brand visibility. But here's a big mistake, treating content as the entire business engine. Content should be a layer, not the whole ladder. It should connect, it should clarify, it should guide your audience toward your offers, your systems, and your sales processes. But if content becomes your only lever, you create risk. Because what happens when a platform changes? when traffic drops, when content stops converting? You need the full stack: clear offers, proven systems, a customer experience that turns buyers into advocates. Content is what opens the doors, but it's not the house. So ask yourself, does your business depend on daily content, or does your content simply enhance that which is already working? The stronger your foundation, the more your content can do. Let's get tactical for a moment. Open up your analytics, Instagram, LinkedIn, email, wherever you post, whatever you're sending out, go back 90 days and answer this. Which content actually performed? Which posts led to conversions, replies, or sales? Which ones did nothing? Now, do something bold. Cut the bottom 80%. Stop copying what doesn't work. Double down on what did work. This is the part many creators skip because it forces them to admit their efforts don't equal impact. But here's the truth. Being busy is not the same as being effective. If you're not auditing, you're guessing, and guessing is really expensive. Here's a bonus move that instantly upgrades your content. Don't stop at that tutorial. Add the transformation, your tips, how-to videos, educational posts. They're valuable, they position you as a guide, they attract the right audience. But if you want those viewers to take action, to trust you, to buy from you, to refer you, you need to layer in some proof. Because information alone creates curiosity, but transformation creates conviction. So here's the formula. Post the tip, back it up with a story, add a testimonial, show what changed for someone who applied it. You're not just saying, here's how to do it. You're showing, look what happens when you do. This is tiny little shift, pairing your content with proof, turns you from a teacher into a trusted authority. And in a noisy feed, authority cuts through. So keep sharing value, just make sure you're also showing the outcome value creates. Now let's redefine visibility. It's not about being seen all the time. It's about being remembered at the right time. Because real visibility, it's not just posting every day to stay top of mind. That's noise. Real visibility happens when someone hears a problem and immediately thinks of you as the solution. That kind of brand awareness doesn't come from flooding the feed. It comes from clarity, consistency, and delivering value that actually sticks. So ask yourself, when your ideal clients face a challenge, do they think of you? When someone needs help, are you the one they recommend? You don't need 100 pieces of content. You need the 3 pieces that people can't forget. Visibility is not always about volume. It's about value recognition. When you stop trying to be everywhere, that's when you start being known for something specific. If your content disappeared tomorrow, would anyone notice? Would your audience feel your absence? Would your ideal client wonder what happened? Or would you be forgotten in a sea of sameness? That's not a scary question, that's a clarifying one. If your business is strong enough to survive 30 days of silence, you're doing it right. If not, this is your signal to rebuild something real. Here's your challenge. Step back for 30 days, not to disappear, but to refocus. Audit your last 90 days, cut out what doesn't work, double down on what did. Rebuild your message, tighten your offer, refine your voice, because the goal is not to post more, the goal is to say something that actually matters. And if this hit home, be sure to subscribe and share this episode with another business owner that could use these tips.